Speaking of being in the building, we're just hours removed from that one going final. Your Seattle Reign, or the Seattle Reign, hosting the Orlando Pride.
Mm-hmm.
This one was interesting. Obviously, Orlando going for their 7th win in the row. They were looking to become only the 3rd team ever to do that in the NWSL.
Nice.
They were able to get it done, which they were. They now are the holders of the longest win streak in the history of the league. Pretty awesome. And your Seattle Reign, obviously you were there. I'm dying to hear what you saw.
Orlando Pride 3, Seattle Reign 2. I'm going to start with the post-match press conference. I'm going to do a little bit of a departure from our typical chronological style. So the 2 players who were made available at the press conference were Angarad James Turner, who had an excellent goal in the first half to really kind of change the momentum of the match, and Ji So-yun. I asked a question to Ji specifically, but it was really, I always lob them up for both players. But I basically prefaced it to Ji saying, you've played against a lot of great players in your career, whether it's for Chelsea, the Korean national team, now here. What is different about Barbra Banda? And I will tell you, I didn't take it personally. I don't think it was directed toward me. I don't think it was directed toward anybody. I was kind of like had my head down looking at the stats, kind of doing my thing on my computer, just trying to make sure. Ji So-yun, and I do not blame her, extremely annoyed by the circumstances that this club is in right now, visibly frustrated. And she was very, very cool answering my question. She was like, Banda she mentioned that she's played against Banda twice for Korea. Korea played Zambia in a few matches, I think she said relatively recently. And she just mentioned, Banda's pace, obviously, but then her strength and her positioning, and that she's just a great player. Mm-hmm. That was understandable. Then Angarad James Turner jumped in, said, Banda has looked incredible since coming into the league. And I agree with James Turner on this, but she said, I think we actually played pretty well against Banda, which is funny to say because Banda had a brace in this match. But I still agree. James Turner was basically saying, she said something to the effect, I'm paraphrasing, we kept her quiet throughout most of the match, and we were able to nullify some of the real threatening instances that she typically creates throughout a match. And I just want to say, how much does that speak to the greatness of Barbra Banda? I think it's pretty clear that, she could have had more, and the defense played about as well as you could play, and she had 2 goals.
I understand what James Turner meant by that, but I think there's a little caveat. So Banda, what makes her different is not just 80% pace, right? What makes Banda so good is she has that blazing pace. She's got the football IQ, but from what we've seen of her this season, she's scoring all different types of ways. Mm-hmm. She's drawn multiple penalties. She finds the header for the first one. The second one, just before literally any player on the pitch could react, the ball's in the back of the net.
Yep.
And that's not really just pace. Nope. That's processing power, actually power, on these shots, and then just an explosiveness in a very small area. So Banda's the type of player where you could take her runs, her scary runs away. She's going one-on-one, against, I don't know, Huerta or something.
Yeah.
This is scary. Okay, now we kind of tamp that down. We got that attack under control. But that's really just a fraction of her game and how she's going to be able to score. I think you can't take everything away.
Nope.
You've got to sort of pick your spots. Say, we're not going to get beat this way. We'll live with it if she gets a couple of these types of looks.
That is extremely well said by you. And you nailed something that I was actually thinking about during the match, was that right before the equalizer that Balser scored for Seattle Reign, Olivia van der Yacht, who had her hands full as a defensive midfielder with Banda for long stretches of the match, she was able to stop one of those one-on-one runs with Banda pushing the ball up the field. Van der Yacht's able to take the ball off her, Fishlock hits the great pass over to Balser, boom, equalizer. But just doing that one time, Banda's just okay, how about the next 10 plays in a row where I'm dishing, I'm making a run and creating a big hole for somebody else to run through and all that stuff. There's just no real way to stop her. Stopping her, that's off the table. And to your point, you can't take away everything, but can you at least make her make as many difficult decisions as you possibly can? It's what teams used to try to do to Michael Jordan. I mean, we could just start comparing Banda to like every great athlete we've ever seen in our lives, I think, at this point. I don't think it's too early. I know we've talked about it. She's the best player in the league. Like, just eye test. She's very clearly the best player in the league.
The color commentator described Banda as inevitable.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's just the best way to describe it. Like, she's going to break through one way or the other, whether she draws a penalty, finds an assist, just kind of gets on the end of one that squirts through, which is how she got the second one.
Can I say on her second one, speaking of Vanderyacht versus Banda, on that corner kick, I thought Vanderyacht was in fine position. She didn't leave Banda open. She had her pretty much closed down. It's just the touch and the curl that Banda's able to put on it in that split second, like you're talking about, that fast twitch. Good offense beats good defense. Nothing you can really do about it.
Yeah, totally. Well, I wanted to get your take. Now, obviously, Banda's going to soak up a lot of the oxygen.
Sure.
Talking about this Orlando Pride squad. One thing I took away watching them up close last week against BFC, defensively, I thought they were really good with regard to kind of like swarming. I thought their press was pretty effective. They're not going to let you do that skip pass up the field. A lot like we were talking about with Leon, they're going to make you work it all the way upfield. And if you try to cheat, they're in those deeper passing lanes. So did you notice anything either defensively from Orlando or offensively not having to do with Barbra Banda?
Sure. Yeah, they do have other players. That's a good point. I mean, obviously, Adriana notched an assist, and I'm not going deep into the well here. I just can't believe that at 38 years old, Marta has stretches where she looks like the best player on the field, on a field that has Barbra Banda on it.
Yep.
She had a move going down the left flank in the second half where she just does a step over spin dribble. I'm in the press box on the opposite side of where the bulk of the field is. She does the step over spin, and I just heard the ooh from like a bunch of people in the crowd. And I was like, good Lord, 38 years old. Yeah. And she is just a magnet for defenders, because if she's not, then again, like, you're already drawing dead if you give her too much space. So in the non-Banda division, there were just moments where you had just triangles, because Marta's floating all around the pitch too. And you just have triangles of Adriana, Emily Sams, and Marta, and they're just playing triangles up the right-hand side of the pitch. And then she'll go over to the middle, and then you have McCutcheon there, and she's kind of playing a give and go with Marta. And they brought on Julie Doyle to start the second half. They brought in Allie Watt. They're just bringing on more good players as the match goes on. So, I mean, we've talked about their depth. Non-Banda division, you just have a ton of really good, really useful players out there. And then you have Banda as the tip of the spear.
Totally agree. I think Banda almost set up Marta for a goal second half.
Great save.
With a sick cross. Yeah, tremendous save. Yeah, like I said, I mean, and I think Marta, not sure even how many minutes she got last week, but we talked about it. Seb Hines, he's earning his paychecks the other way this season, trying to figure out what to do with all these pieces.
Yeah.
Shout out to him. He's making it work. A lot of times situations like this can result in a little bit of a tumult with people trying to think about their playing time and their role and kind of being able to get into a rhythm. But both players in the presser last week and Seb Hines talked about things starting with the defense. And I think that's really, to our earlier conversation, a great way to kind of like build some synchronicity within the team and figure out, okay, now I know where you're at. We're working together defensively as opposed to just, all right, Banda, go, run.
Right.
Sometimes what we see from her on that Zambian national team. Let's switch gears, though. Seattle. Are we bummed out? What are the vibes like?
They clearly play better at home because, I won't name any names, but some people who live in Seattle and watch a lot of their games thought they might get smacked in this one. And when they were down 2-0, those same people may have thought like, okay, this one might get really out of hand. I put in my notes, as soon as James Turner was able to have that rip on goal and she converted it in a great shot, I put Seattle needed that in the absolute worst way.
Yeah.
And James Turner actually mentioned in the presser, she thought, this happens to every team, but James Turner mentioned she thought the momentum switched a little bit at the end of that first half when Orlando's potential third goal got called back on that offside.
Mm-hmm.
She said she felt like a little bit of air get taken out of Orlando. And Seattle, they definitely closed out like the last like 7-ish minutes of the half much better than they played in the previous like 38. Did you feel any of that from the broadcast?
I would say, yeah. I mean, within the flow of the game, yes. But knowing this Orlando Pride team and kind of what they've looked like this season, maybe a little bit less so. Like they dominated Bay FC.
Sure.
But outside of that, Orlando has found a lot of success this season, kind of like dominating spots.
Yeah.
Obviously like they get the 2 goals kind of like quick in succession today. And it's a lot of special play, to be honest.
Yeah.
Kind of like low XG type opportunities that they're just finding a way to kind of like cash in on. And this happened too against Bay FC. Banda, a lot of good chances created. We talked about these stats last week, 25 shots, 10 on target, just the 1 goal that was a penalty. But I think that the momentum did start to shift. But once James Turner scores, like now it's signed, sealed, delivered. The momentum has now shifted.
Yeah.
We really do have a game. And I think for Seattle specifically at home, the struggles that they've faced offensively for sure, just seeing that kind of goal, again, being down 2-0, now you're heading into halftime, brand new game. Mm-hmm. I think that definitely, if it wasn't turning before then, it absolutely 180 degrees the moment the ball hits the net.
Yeah, I totally agree. But, it goes back to that mentality. Seb Hines as the manager, a leader like Marta in the squad, just relentlessness from Orlando. Even after the equalizer, great long ball from Fishlock. Balser's able to finish after the keeper gets a touch on it. By the way, your Morehouse, I know she let in two. One was that great strike by James Turner, and then the other one she got a touch on and gets a little unlucky. She still put in a pretty nice performance for a match that finished 3-2. So the depth is all over the field for you guys.
Yeah, she's been really good, and I thought she was good in this game as well.
Yep.
Pretty big one going into next week.
Oh, yeah.
Orlando Pride taking on the Portland Thorns. And that one might lead next week's show. Actually, we've got some Champions League, so we'll see. That one might lead the NWSL portion of next week's show. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to that one. That's going to be the primetime 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific Friday match.
Let's go.
According to @OptaJack on Twitter, a football statistics Twitter account that I very much enjoy, next Friday's match between Orlando Pride, won 7 in a row, and Thorns FC, won 6 in a row, will be the first meeting in the NWSL's history between two teams on a 4+ match winning streak.
Wow.
So that's a big one. And I think, again, we're talking about Lyon, Barcelona. We're in for another heavyweight fight on this side of the pond.
I love it. We're in full-on DAZN boxing promo preview. Seeing all those like videos that they slot into this women's football coverage.
Absolutely.
Pretty funny. This one, absolute banger. Cannot wait for that. This whole football weekend coming up is going to be out of this world. I cannot wait. We will be back later this week with a proper Champions League preview. Barcelona, Lyon. Going to be chopping that one up from as many angles as we can. And then on Saturday, we will be back live after the final. So be sure you're subscribed. Be sure you're following us. Get at us on YouTube, Spotify, Twitter, X, all the platforms, just so you make sure that you don't miss what we've got coming on Saturday. So yeah, we're going to watch the game together. We're going to hang out, live stream after the fact. It's been a wild Champions League season. I'm sure the final is going to be awesome. So very, very much looking forward to that. Anything else you want to hit before we get out of here?
I think that's it, man. I'm just extremely psyched to watch that match and then catch up with you after. Obviously, there will be a celebratory beer cracking when we do that episode. We always do things responsibly over here on the ITC. Mm-hmm. There will be a celebratory beer cracking at kickoff of that match as well. So what is the thing that Raj Bennett always likes to say? He's on his third beer of the day.
Yeah.
That will likely be my second beer of the day when we get things popping on the Pokes game show.
Totally fair. And if you are going to crack one at some point during the game, save one for the post game so you can crack it with us live on YouTube. We very much look forward to that. Mm-hmm. All right, man. I think we did it. It's been another episode of Into the Channel. Thank you for watching, listening, subscribing, liking, hanging out with your boys, calling us out, giving us all the context that we need to make us sound just a little bit smarter. We definitely appreciate it. Remember, like if you liked, and subscribe or follow into the channel, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to watch or listen at ITC_pod on X. And a big thank you to my co-host as well, Mr. Grant Engel. No matter what's starting back up, no matter what's winding down, I know my guy's always going to be up for it. So I appreciate you, and I love chopping up all these matches with you.
Likewise, my good man. No matter what table me and you are on, no matter what table Into the Channel is on, we're top of the table, and it's because of all the people who are nice enough to rock with us, leave those comments. So thank you all, and we will see you all for the Champions League final preview.